Well, hello, everyone. This is Rosalind Henderson. I want to welcome you again to our next interview. I've been interviewing all morning. I'm finding such wonderful, instructive, high-powered people in our community. And here's another introduction. This young lady is someone who is a grief coach. And this is really, really important because to be honest with you, I know little about grief coaches, but I know that that they're needed. They are needed. And Cortne Lee Smith is going to talk to us a little bit about what are some of the points along an entrepreneur's journey where they have got to let go. Got to let go of things at the time that they might find to be it's very sacrificial to let go of, but we need to do it if we're going to go up. And so I want to thank you, Cortne, for being here.
Thank you for having me here. I love this group. It has always a load of wonderful information that is here in this group.
Oh, thank you so much. And you're part of this group, and I know that you're going to share some big tidbits that people can walk away with that's going to transform their lives. And so when I think about being an entrepreneur, this is the thing that no one ever tells you, right? No one told me this. I'm all excited. Woohoo! I'm getting my coaching. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. And you start off strong and you start realizing some things that are rough realizations in trying to make your dream come true. I have realized in my journey, for instance, that there were a number of things that I needed to give up. Some things were easy to give up. For instance, I was a binge watcher. I used to watch TV all the time. Okay. And I realized, hey, I needed to do less TV watching and focus more on the elements of my business. Okay, I can handle that. But then, Cortne, there were the things that drove me to tears.
Uh-oh.
For instance, I needed to say bye to some relationships, people that I love, but they weren't going in my same direction.
Yes.
Or they were not interested at all in what I was doing, nor did they try to support me at all. In fact, there were a couple of folks who actually seemed to me to be naysayers.
Yeah.
Yes, trying to shoot my dream down. And I realized, as much as I love you, this relationship is going to have to change. And I had to just, walk away and look for other relationships. So I want you to talk to us a little bit about first who you are, and then we can get into the topic of letting go and how to do it.
Okay, well, of course, you said I'm Cortne Lee Smith. I am a grief and a loss coach. And of course, I got here through my own experience, through a personal loss of losing my husband. He passed away in 2012. Some professional losses. I shouldn't say I lost a career, but I had to do a serious shift in 2012 because I had a serious accident. So that required me to make some shifts in that journey of what I thought my end was going to be. And a lot of you all can relate to that, especially in this COVID season. What you thought it was going to be, you had to make some shifts. So I've had personal, professional shifts that I've really had to make some decisions that I was going to let go, or was I going to die in that position because because I don't really want to let go of it, like you were saying about your families and friends. So what I really help people do is get from what the could have been to the should have been to what is right now, so we can embrace our now and chase our futures.
Ooh, I love that statement. So that we're not living in the past, really thinking about it, if I would have, could have, should have with Jimmy.
How would that have worked out? Well, we don't know.
How would that have worked out? Yeah, and that's something that we do when we hold on instead of letting go, so that we can allow God to put that greater thing in our hands. So what are some typical losses that entrepreneurs deal with?
one thing that you were really talking about is different types of relationships. And I think we lose expectations and beliefs in people, because one of the things when we become entrepreneurs, we believe our family and friends are going to be our first customers. But we really have to let that go, and we have to distance that relationship. You need to know the difference between business relationships and family relationships. And as entrepreneurs, when you're in your own business, you're excited. You want everybody else to be excited about it. But there is that space that everybody doesn't need to know what's going on in your business, because they might not support you the way that you think they are. They might be the secret people going around tearing you down. So you have to know to let go of expecting everybody to be excited and build you and buy from you. Today, I'm going to use this kind of cooking analogy. I usually talk about cars because, that's the theme of my business, the relationship service station. But I think more people can relate to eating in the kitchen, in the food. So when I think about what we really have to let go of in that aspect is letting too many people in the kitchen, let too many people cook with us when they have no specialty, they have no training. And this goes from letting go of having the cheapest coach. We have to realize that we have to invest in ourselves first. We need to learn what those investments mean, because I know when I came on the entrepreneurial journey, I was like, okay, I can do my own website. I can do this. I can do this. And we get in this place of we are solopreneurs. And that is not really where we want to be. We want to be an entrepreneur. We do want to let people in the kitchen, but we want to actually make sure they have some qualifications to be in the kitchen with us. And one of the biggest things that I've learned is this whole cookie cutter version of entrepreneur doesn't exist. They're just like when you go to the store, there are so many ingredients in every cookie. So I like to say I had to let go of that cookie cutter version and become my own unique cookie. And when I did that, I knew exactly the different chefs I needed in the kitchen with me. Every coach is not going to work with the ingredients that you bring. And then every once in a while, you're going to have to let go of some things because you found out, okay, your customer's allergic to nutty people. Let them go.
Yes.
So that's not working well with your business. Hey, my customers are vegans, so I need to change the ingredients that I use. So we have to be in that place to understand. We have to be evolving, and we need to be making the ingredients to our customers. And a lot of times we listening to our families and friends, and we catering and we making in the kitchen for them, and they're not the people paying us.
Ooh, my goodness, you said so much there. Absolutely, and I love that analogy of being in the kitchen and making sure that you understand the recipe that you're making for your customers. That is so well put. And you're also talking about having a high degree of self-knowledge and being able to assess yourself and being bold enough, because it does take some boldness to follow what you know to be true about you and how your makeup, instead of trying to be a cookie cutter entrepreneur. Because in the end, I believe that, your customers are going to be attracted to your uniqueness and the way you are a grief coach, the way you practice it, as opposed to someone else. Your customers are already out there, waiting for you. So that is some good information. So what are some steps? I know, or I have heard that there are steps in the grieving process when you let go. So many of us, just realize that we've lost something and we just try to swallow it and keep on going, not even acknowledging the fact that we've lost something that is precious to us and that we need to maybe metabolize the fact that we lost something so that loss is not coming to visit us 10 years down the road. I've seen that too. You never have dealt with the process of losing something. You haven't found closure, and now it's affecting you today.
Yeah. So I don't really like to say grief is steps, because some people skip past some of those steps. Some people don't necessarily go through those steps. I like to say just let's get on the process. And I think what happens is a lot of us don't process grief. Like you say, we push it down. We go to silent good. We don't, we're not in tune to our emotions. And what we do is we put them and we bottle them in, and the emotions are fighting within us. We become our own enemy. Every day we are warring with that voice on the inside of us. And eventually what happens, we explode or we cut away, and we don't even allow ourselves to become that new person. What we do is become an enemy to ourselves, because we haven't adjusted. When we lose things, we battle things. I take people through a 4R process, and it's a place where you have to release, you have to reinvent, and we have to rediscover, and then we reintroduce ourselves. And I think that is something that we go through daily in order to reach that desired income. And what I always say is that you can tell you're maturing, you tell you're going through the process when you allow yourself to have a different response and reaction to something that you had yesterday. That means then you know you're growing. And so that's the key to me. Grief should always grow you. And if it gets you stuck someplace, or it gets you feel like you're buried in your emotions, that's when you know you're grieving in a very unhealthy way. When you're always going through what they call the hamster, you're running through these emotions, but it's actually you're just tired, but you see no progress. You just absolutely slap tired. You haven't moved anywhere, you got anywhere, you're just in this little cage, in this little box. And that's why I say we're in our mind. We're just so tired, running away from what it is we need to deal with in us.
Yes, I think people are afraid of grief.
Yes.
And they're afraid of negative emotions. And I think grief tops the list. I guess maybe sometimes people think they'll be overwhelmed if they start looking at the feelings that they have associated with loss, and that maybe it's just better just to swallow and just move on. I know that was the culture that I grew up in, not necessarily in my household, but people around me, were like that. That's how you looked strong. You looked strong, when you swallowed it and just kept on going. So what would you say to the person out there, the entrepreneur out there, who is kind of resisting the whole idea of acknowledging losses and letting the process happen, so that honestly you're in a healthier place?
Yes.
Once you do that, what would you suggest and say to those folks out there?
First of all, all of us grieve every day. There is some type of disappointment, something that didn't go our way. And I really think that's how each of us learn the lessons, instead of saying something didn't work out. If you really go back and analyze something about yourself, because you're always the common denominator in every situation. So you always got to analyze something about yourself. What was it? What role did I play in this situation? And then after you figure that part out and make that change within you, then you can go back and say, okay, now I know what I can change in me. Now, what is it that I can learn from what happened that I can do differently? If we don't get so caught up in a woe is me, I can't believe this. And that is how we get, because change or shift happens and we're thrown in, I like to say, the pandemic that people proclaim that we're having, instead of saying we are just going through a season of COVID. And if we can get out of panic mode and assess what the disease really is, assess what's within us and how our immunity, how we can build up our immunities. And I say that in business, how can you build your business up so it becomes immune to all of these different things that will happen? How can you actually do that? And I like to say, how can you quarantine yourself to stay focused on making sure you just don't break out into chaos? And there's so many people just trying to do everything instead of just staying quarantined, focused, stay in the lane that you're in. Your ingredients are good. Somebody still wants those ingredients. We don't have to get so carried away. Sometimes, I think sometimes we do so much that the actual essence of us get lost. So every day when you grieve, don't freak out. Remember the essence of you. Keep yourself grounded and allow yourself to actually say, hey, this control that I think I have, it really does belong to God. And if I can give him this to order these steps in my business, it just flows so much better. And don't be so frantic. Give yourself that grace for the imperfection of that day.
Ooh, Cortne. Woo! That is such rich, great information that we need to hold on to. I like the whole idea, because what you're doing, or what you're saying to me, you're normalizing. This is normal. You're saying, Rosalind, this is normal, that we grieve every day. Things
Yeah.
happen every day. We're disappointed every day. Stop acting like it's something foreign.
Yeah, that's right. Yes.
And embrace it, learn from it, see what the part that you play, and keep it moving. And I love it. I love your perspective on that. I have one final question. Then I want you to share with us, because I'm sure there's people, entrepreneurs out there who could really benefit from your service. What part does unforgiveness
Mm.
play in the grieving process?
Well, a lot of times there are two parts of unforgiveness in the grieving process, because a lot of times we can't forgive ourselves because of not necessarily being who we should have been in a relationship and not stepping up sooner to take responsibility for our part in it. Because I know a lot of people, we don't go back and apologize for our part. And I'm gonna talk about business. So in business, you were on somebody's platform, or you did something that wasn't necessarily professional, or you didn't necessarily operate in excellence, or you actually overpriced something, or didn't give whatever it was you were supposed to do. And when that relationship ended and it didn't work out the way it was, we weren't big enough to give that apology that we needed. And that unforgiveness, when that relationship dies, really turns into bitterness, distance, and then it messes up, because as big as we think the world is, that network is, then you're afraid to get back in that connection with people who know that person. Because you're like, okay, I wasn't really the best version of myself in this relationship. And
Yes.
so, but then it happens on the other side. Both people got to be big enough to do this forgiveness thing, have this conversation. So if we didn't part necessarily the most amicable ways, both parties, the other party who let you go, should have a conversation as well. So that way you can learn. So that way you can mature, say, hey, maybe I can't take you back on because too much has happened between us.
Yes.
But hey, if you do this, this, and that, I can probably open some other doors, some other opportunities, and we can see where it happens for us in the future. But we actually kill our future because we can't forgive somebody for something that happened way in the past. Is that neglect of saying, I'm sorry. And so that's where forgiveness coming in. And I'm not saying it's sorry because you didn't give anything, but you weren't necessarily at that level that you needed to be. A lot of times we jump into collaborations or relationships that we aren't ready for. Not necessarily that person wasn't good, not necessarily that was something that we can't do. It just was not our time because we haven't been groomed to do it. And if a lot of us are ready, we feel like we're ready, we want to get in the kitchen and cook. We don't have no certifications. We hadn't learned how to safe serve. We ain't got no cleaning skills, but we out there poisoning people. We got a C on our restaurant, and then we wondering why they coming to shut the doors down. And so that's what I'm saying. So that piece is, be ready to have forgiveness, be ready to listen to the critiquing so that your business can grow and you can reconnect with people. And then the honesty is just say, I wasn't ready.
Yes. Oh, Courtney. Excellent. This is some excellent, meaty, transformative information. You're hitting nails on the head. I hear everybody in the audience going, ouch, ouch, ouch. I love it, because that's also true. And we got to get to the point, I think, in whether we experience loss or not, owning up to the part that we play.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting is that you can get a relationship back on track, or it may not be the same relationship you started off with, but you can minimize the damage.
Yes.
If you just go to somebody and say, these were the facts, please forgive me. And the other person, hearing that, most people are going to be quick to release you from their own anger, and so that you can move forward. So if somebody wants to get in contact with you, and this is good stuff, okay, you guys know you got to run, not walk. Always say that to the geniuses that we have in this group. And Courtney's one. You know that you need help with grieving because you just can't do it in isolation.
No.
No, it's just so hard to do it in isolation. How can we get in contact with you, Courtney?
You can text me at 678-718-5019, or you can always find me at the Relationship Service Station, giving out tools and skills to make sure our vehicle is moving on our best relationship journey.
Oh, I love it. All right, folks, you heard it. You heard it. Get in contact with Courtney. Make that happen. I want to thank you for being here and spending time with us. We're going to have you on again. I keep meeting. I just love interviewing. I keep meeting one genius after another genius after another genius. I got to have you back on because you're talking about relevant information in this entrepreneurial journey that we don't hear about that often. But we need to hear about this if we're talking about being successful. All right. So until next time, everyone, I pray that you have a wonderful weekend. Go ahead and contact Courtney now. Until next time, peace and blessings, everyone.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.